This is the Our Town with Troy by North Alabama's podcast, coming to you live from Madison, Alabama, in the shadows of Huntsville. Love Huntsville. So does my guest. I'm going to introduce him in just a second, but we are approaching our 2-year anniversary, which is exciting. And as I mentioned in the last episode, there will be a store, like a merch store, that will open through Apparel Lab that will run about 2 weeks. And I'll be blasting social media about, hey, there's your chance to go and pick out a hoodie, a shirt, a hat, mug, whatever we decide to go with. Similar, well, exactly like we did last year. And I thought that was really neat with our new logo. And then I was talking to my guest, Dyllan Russell, before we hit record. You'll see a lot more merch options. And nice. I'll probably do that between Apparel Lab and then also just stock up my own store. And it just takes the time to put those things online. Yeah. And I wanted to make sure I did it right. Mm-hmm. So with that, here we go. Dyllan Russell, Sauce Daddy.
Yes, sir. The one and only.
Is in the one and that we know of, right? I guess you're the one.
That we know of.
Yeah. So Dyllan is originally from Atlanta, or from Georgia. Stone Mountain, Atlanta. Went to Georgia Tech, BS in aerospace engineering. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
That's a good school.
It was, yes.
And now been here a little over 5 years, I think. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you this question right away. And this is if you watched my episode, I've had 2 episodes with John Kavach. He's building the Singing River Trail. It's this 250-mile trail across all of North Alabama, from the northeast corner of Bridgeport all the way to the northwest corner of like the Shoals. It's awesome. And it's going to connect small towns, right? It's going to allow a lot of economic development, create jobs, because now you're allowing people, if they don't have transportation, they may have a way now to get on a scooter or an e-bike and go from one town to the next, right, and go to their job. But he's from Maryland, and I'm from Virginia, and I hate Maryland, and he hates Virginia.
Okay.
And I don't know if there's an amount of money you could pay me to live in the state of Maryland. I couldn't do it. And it's just the way you grow up. You just grow up, like, for whatever reason, you hate that state. So let me ask you, because I don't know. My sister and her family now live in Atlanta. They live in Tequila, but they've lived all over. But when you grow up in Georgia, do you despise South Carolina or Alabama? Like, who do you like? And I ask this because you're in Alabama now, right? But does there kind of like that animosity and or kind of planted, like you just are enemies because you share a border? With any of these states?
I don't know. I don't think that's nothing. I was never exposed to anything like that, so I can't really answer that. I want to say no. I don't really have any animosities or rivalries with any particular state. But within the state, there were some rivalries there. Like obviously Georgia Tech, we did not like UGA too much. Yeah. But even amongst that milieu, I really didn't take to any sort of rivalry stuff. I never had any issue with UGA, so okay. I think we honestly were just mad that we were getting washed all the time in football.
But even growing up, just in general, there wasn't like the jokes that you like. We had a lot of like West Virginia jokes, actually.
Really?
We made fun of West Virginia, but we hated Maryland. I could probably live in West Virginia, but it was just. Like if you're whoever you are, we're kind of tribal that way. You're just always going to make fun of some other town, other city. So.
Yeah. Nah, I didn't really have too much of that, honestly.
All right, you guys are cool in ATL. It's all about that.
That's Southern hospitality, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, and your family's from your mother. I mean, was from Guyana.
Yeah, she's from Guyana.
Okay.
My father's from Trinidad.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, because Guyana's east of Venezuela?
Yes.
And then Trinidad up in the Caribbean, right?
Yeah.
Where did they meet?
That's a funny story. To be honest with you, this is kind of shameful, but I do not know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, so your story, one of the times I was kind of thinking as you were coming over, I'm like, well, I'm like almost 50. Trying to get a podcast, off the ground and having fun with it. It's a labor of love, a side hustle. And I've interviewed a lot of people that might, a little older than me, that maybe they've retired and now they have the luxury to kind of move on to their side hustle or however they spend their time, right? Where, you're a younger guy, just kind of starting out your career, but at the same time, back in 2020, I'm assuming it was kind of during the pandemic. You're out there growing herbs and peppers and stuff in your yard, and you have a habanero bush yield like 600 peppers.
Yep.
And you start thinking about your upbringing and your mother, and you mentioned kind of growing up in that Guaynese kitchen, and I don't know, your mind starts going.
Yeah.
Your brain starts going with like, wait a minute, what am I going to do with these peppers? And let me start, doing some experimenting, and let's try and make a hot sauce, right?
Yeah.
But can you go just first into a little more depth? Did you spend some time with your mom in the kitchen experimenting? Did you show interest in the garden and helping her grow her herbs, or like talk through that?
So do you mean when I was
like you were growing up?
Gotcha. Oh yeah,
the
definitely.
influence that she had.
Oh yeah, definitely. So my mother was always cooking for us. So that was something that I really did appreciate back then. Just she was always making just classic Caribbean dishes, just like oxtail, ackee and saltfish, things like that.
Yeah.
And something that she also always loved to do was garden. We always had a garden every summer. Every summer we had a garden. So I've always loved being out in nature. I've always loved sort of planting. I've had a green thumb since I was a kid. So mainly because of her. So that's definitely a big thing that sort of got me into the kitchen, and that's a big part of what sort of inspired me to do it. Because, like as you said, when I had all those peppers and I was trying to figure out what to do with them, I thought back to how she would always get peppers and sort of other herbs and spices, garlic, whatever it may be, and she would pickle them in vinegar and then blend them up, and she would just leave them there until whenever she wanted pepper sauce. And we'd always be eating that with our food every day.
Really?
We'd always have some pepper sauce with our food. So that was really what sort of led me down the road. I started by pickling them the same way that she did. And then as I sort of went down the process of what you needed in order to make a hot sauce legitimate as a commercial product, that sort of led me down to the recipe that I have today. So definitely I owe a lot to my mother when it comes to where I am right now.
How spicy was what she was making for you all?
Oh, it's hot. Yeah. Scotch bonnet peppers, things like that. And she wouldn't cook them. So cooking peppers really, it breaks down capsaicin.
Yeah.
So it lowers the heat level. So when all you do is blend it up, especially when she keeps the seeds in there, it's like it sets you on fire. So
really?
It definitely has sort of set the standard for my own personal sort of heat index. A lot of stuff that people think is really hot, I really do not. So that's something I definitely had to gauge when it comes to making a product that the consumers like, but that I also consider hot sauce,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of jumping ahead, but I imagine you have a few close friends that act as like a focus group or a test group.
Yeah. That's actually how I started the whole business. The first time I ever had someone try the hot sauce, I was going
camping, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was going camping, and I was on the way. We were going to where were we going? Rocktown, because I was big in rock climbing back then. So I was in charge of food duty. So I grabbed a bag of hamburger buns and some frozen Bubba burgers, and was cooking the burgers up. Didn't tell anyone what was going on, and I just threw some on there. And they were like, "What did you put on these?" And I was like, "Oh, I made a little hot sauce." So then they were sort of my guinea pigs, and it's been an iterative process since then.
How long did it take you to make that hot sauce that you debuted when you went camping?
That was pretty early in the process. I'd probably say I was tinkering with it for maybe 3 or 4 months.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And it just lined up well.
It did. It did. I mean, I definitely did tweak it, and that's something that I'm very grateful to my engineering background for, was that when I started making the recipes, I really took a quantitative process from the jump. I wasn't just doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. The sauce is done, but I didn't write anything down. So I'm like, how did I even make this?
Yeah.
I was pretty strict when it came to documenting everything that I was doing. So I was tweaking, changing, documenting all those things. So it was still pretty early in the process, but I knew what I was doing when I showed them the sauce. So.
And, let's dive into that a little bit. So I know lime and basil are a huge component to what's in your product now. Was that lime and basil also back then?
Yes.
Okay.
It was.
And that's something that was like your mom's kind of secret or something that you learned from her?
No, not really.
No?
Just
Your own thing.
yeah, my own thing. So I've always enjoyed cooking.
Yeah.
So a big part of what sort of led me down this road was me cooking for myself. I meal prep for myself all the time. So I was in the spot where I was eating the same chicken breast for the upteenth month, you know. So I really wanted something that would sort of introduce new flavors to what I was eating, but still maintain the quality and the sort of health aspect that I was looking for my food. So I've always enjoyed cooking. Something that I like to do is every weekend I like to pick a new recipe and just make something crazy just for the heck of it. I truly enjoy cooking.
Yeah.
So that was sort of what led me down that road. And when it comes to lime and basil, it was sort of two things. One, I just love the lime flavor. I think lime is one of the few things that sort of just tastes good on everything.
Yeah.
I think it's that acidity. I'm not quite sure what it is. And then basil was one of the herbs that was growing in my garden when I started this whole process. So lime and basil, I just thought it was something that would be interesting. It was unique. I hadn't seen anything like it before. And something that I've always liked to do is just experiment. Just my engineering scientific background, not even that background, just ever since I was a kid, I like playing around with things. I like breaking stuff down, trying new stuff, seeing if it breaks, if it's great, whatever it might be. So just in my head, I was like, man, I think lime and basil would be a pretty good flavor combination. So that's really what led me down that road.
Did you make other sauces? You know, like, so I'm kind of sharing, this is much later in life for me, you know, like well into my 40s, but in the last 4 or 5 years, I've really taken interest in cooking. It kind of started just with like backyard, like being a better backyard griller, and then you buy a smoker, and then, I should get a griddle. And I start getting more confidence in myself, right, with different things. And then it kind of leads in just to the kitchen, which is regular cooking. Mm-hmm. But one thing I've enjoyed doing is just making my own sauces. Now, I'm not as like daring in a way to just, let me try this and let me try that. I generally kind of follow a recipe until I figure out, like, in my mind, kind of what makes that recipe work, and then maybe what are the things that should always be in there, and then what are those things you can maybe, substitute out. But did you also dabble in just other sauces or other kind of homemade things that typically we would just be lazy and buy at the store?
Yeah. I definitely tried a couple of different flavors when I first went through this process, mainly because that habanero plant I had wasn't the only plant that I had growing. So I had a couple different peppers growing. I had serrano peppers growing. I had some jalapenos growing. I had rosemary, other herbs in my garden. So I was in there mixing, matching with everything.
Yeah.
One of the other things I was playing around with, I was doing like it was a weird combination. It was like pineapple, jalapeno, and candied ginger. It was some wild stuff. So, but as I was moving forward, I was like, I wanted to focus on that one mainly just because it was the best one. So I did try a couple different things. None of them really panned out as well as the lime and basil did, which is why that's the one flavor we have right now. But yeah, I definitely did play around a lot with it.
Got it. So let's jump into this. All right, this is your logo, and this is from your Instagram, right? So this shouldn't be a surprise, but I just really like, the logo is great, and we're going to talk about it here shortly. I like the colors,
Thank you.
But for some reason, I just really like this shot too. You have that that wreath going around it, and then you got that peppers in the back. It's like a Christmas themed thing, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, I like that. As far as like, I was looking for where are we going to talk about the logo? Let me use this picture. So let's talk about that. First, let's talk about the colors. The thought that you put into the primary, there's only 2 colors really in this. Talk me through what made you choose those.
So when I think about why I chose those colors, actually, it was a little bit of an iterative process, sort of the same way where you said you went through your process for this room.
Yeah.
You do something as you sort of progress down that path, you recognize, okay, maybe these are things that I'd like to tweak, things like that. So I actually had before I had that logo, I actually had a very different one.
Really?
I had the gas mask still, but it was like blowing pink smoke. It had like camo in the background, all sorts of stuff. And I really did like it. But what actually happened was I was making business cards on Vistaprint for the business.
Yeah.
And I found one that was really sort of sleek and minimalistic that I really enjoyed. So it was a gray with a sort of a gold foil accent to it. And so I made business cards of them. And I was down in Atlanta. I was hanging out with my family. So I showed them the new cards I made. And they saw them and they were like, your label should look like this, you know? So something that I've definitely learned in my older age is that sometimes when your mom tells you things, you should probably listen. And it was something that really sort of attenuated with me too, because something that I've always enjoyed aesthetically is the minimalism.
Yeah.
I really like sort of clean lines, not a lot of things going on, sort of a monochromatic feel, which is something that I wanted to sort of reflect in my branding. And I feel like it makes a brand a little bit easier for anyone to sort of connect with.
Yeah.
I was thinking about sort of the brand that I always think about is Apple, actually. When I think about Apple, I think about how simple it is, how sleek it is, how there's only one or two colorways. And it's something to where anyone, any age group, any demographic can look at it and connect with it, you know, just because it's so simple, so basic. And that with that basic comes sort of a clean feeling, you know. So that was something that I was trying to exemplify in my rebrand when I did this.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. And then where did you get how did you come up with the gas mask just design?
So the gas mask, actually, that just came from experience. So when I was making the hot sauce, it was so hot, the vapors, the mist coming up from the sauce when I was making it was like burning my face. So I had to put a gas mask on.
Did you really?
In order to stop from coughing and my eyes from burning from all those things. So I was like, man, this would be perfect for a label. So that's what.
Did you create it yourself, or did you have somebody do that?
So I made the original logo myself. So actually, the first one, man, I should have brought a picture of my original label. So the first label that I had, the gas mask that I was using was actually one that I drew.
Okay.
But then as I moved forward and did the rebrand, I actually just used the clip art that I found in Canva. And I worked with a graphic designer named Terry Chandler, great guy.
Yeah.
He's down in, I want to say, Hayden, Alabama, that helped me sort of collate all of my ideas together into a cohesive brand. Because when something that I've really learned across this process is my first label, while it was cool, it was only cool to me, and it didn't really tell a comprehensive story. Something that Terry really helped shine a light on was that not everyone knows all the things that went behind your label, your logo, and that is something that needs to be able to stand up to a stranger's eye.
Yeah.
So if your label is on a shelf with 50 other labels, and someone who has nothing to do with your brand walks by, looks at it, picks it up, and then starts to inspect it, does it tell a story that makes sense and is also appealing to them? My original label, it had like Japanese lettering all over it. It had camo. It had pink smoke. It told a lot of different conflicting stories, and Terry really helped me sort of pull everything together into a cohesion that sort of, when you see the bottle by itself, it can stand alone and make sense, you know?
Yeah. Is there something to be said for it? So you look at the logo and, like, I guess at a cursory level, you think it's a gas mask, but it's also the kind of logo that you sit there and it makes you stare at it more. And I'm always looking for, like, can I pull out like the clues in a way, or the hidden message in a logo, like what was really going on in Dyllan's mind when he did this. And I think that's brilliant too, right? Where you just, in packaging and labels, I think has a lot. If I go to the Star Market, let's say down in 5 Points, and I think they have a lot of sauces, right? I think they kind of pride themselves on helping people like you get going, perhaps having those on their shelves. To me, a lot of times it's what's the packaging is what draw me to that, of course, because I don't know if I have never tried it. And I think your logo does it's simple, but it's also like, let me take a deeper look at this. Is that the kind of feedback you got too?
Yes,
like
that I have gotten that feedback a lot, and that is I appreciate it because that's definitely something that we were trying to do.
Yeah.
Something I did a lot of research into the market when I was rebranding the our design, and something that I definitely noticed is that when you look at brands, in particular sauce brands, I feel like they really take a maximalistic approach. There's a lot of stuff going on the page.
Yeah.
So what I really wanted to do is I wanted something. I essentially what I was thinking of was a black hole. Essentially, I thought if you were to let's say you're walking down the sauce aisle in Publix, right? There's 200 brands on either side of you. All of them have stuff going on. Now imagine you see Sauce Daddy, and it's just a wall of, not a wall, but like a hole of black, a hole of gray. It's going to, the absence of noise is going to attract you, you know?
Yeah.
So that's something that I was really thinking about when we made that label. Was I thought the absence of noise would be attractive.
Yeah. That would be a cool visual where you're like kind of going along like, wait, what happened to these shelves?
Exactly.
And then you take another look, right? Yeah, that's awesome. Let me see if here's it on a here's kind of the I like this in a logo too, where you can just go with the white, or and you're departing from the color set, but at the same time, you're not losing the brand, right? By just putting it on a burgundy sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this too. I was thinking you never mention your name like on your website. I don't think you do. It's kind of like our story and about us and all that. And I think, what's your thought into that, where it's your Sauce Daddy, and I guess it's just kind of branding yourself as that and leave Dyllan Russell out of it. Sometimes I see you mentioned the we. I do the same thing. I mean, this is just me, kind of my show. My wife kind of helps out, but I'm just trained to kind of say we versus just I. But if you don't mind commenting on that, because is there a reason you leave Dyllan Russell out of it, and then also kind of toggling between the we and the I, and if there is a we, who are the other people helping you?
Gotcha. Yeah. So sort of when I think about the Sauce Daddy brand, I didn't necessarily want to separate myself from it, but I do sort of see it as something that's distinct from me. I don't know. Have you heard of the streamer Dr. Disrespect?
No.
Okay. So he's a pretty famous video game streamer, and he has this, I guess you call it an alter ego. There's the person who the actual guy, his name is, funny enough, Guy. And then he has this character, Dr. Disrespect, who's this really braggadocious, I'm the best, none of you guys can say anything to me, I'm gonna beat you guys every time, whatever. Yeah. That's his character. And whenever he's live, that's the character that he continues to play, So when I think about Sauce Daddy, I sort of wanted to emulate that, to where Sauce Daddy is the guy in this realm. Sauce Daddy is the person who's operating this. He's the sort of personality. He's the engine to this, not Dyllan Russell. So that's sort of what my idea was behind not really putting any of my personal name and information on the website. And that being said, I am still on the website. When it comes to our donations, and when it comes to our sort of commitments to being a part of the community, there's a whole page where it's just pictures of me and my dog on there. Yeah. Because part of the reason why we actually do commit a portion of all of our sales to the Greater Huntsville Humane Society, mainly because of my dog Hamburger. When he passed, I decided that I wanted to sort of give back in that way. So I have a whole page on the website where I just show pictures. Yeah, that's it.
There he is.
where I just show pictures. I talk more about Hamburger than I do about me on the page, honestly.
There's a great picture of you in the car with him. And he died about a year ago.
Yeah.
On Good Friday.
This Friday. Yeah, Good Friday.
Wow.
Yeah, it's coming up on Friday.
That's going to be tough, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, he's still with me. I say that all the time. I really do feel like he's with me still. One of the greatest blessings I've ever had was to have that dog. I truly believe that.
And you had him for 5 years?
I did, yeah. He went everywhere with me. I literally took him everywhere.
What was the breed?
He was a chocolate lab.
Chocolate lab.
Mm-hmm.
You going to get another dog?
In time, yeah, definitely.
When you're ready?
Yeah. I'm really in this mode to where I'm just running and gunning, and it's just not quite time yet. I'd like to be in a little bit of a different place before I get a dog. Although I think about it all the time. I was thinking about it last week. Like, man, I'd love to have a dog.
So, did you rescue Hamburger?
So he was my aunt's dog.
Okay.
So my aunt's a nurse. She lives in Stone Mountain, and before I moved up to Huntsville, my sister actually approached me, and she was like, "Hey, would you like to take Hammy?" Because my aunt, she's the nurse, so she works ridiculous hours.
Yeah.
So, and a chocolate lab, especially he was maybe 4 or 5 when I got him, so he's bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
You know. So my sister approached me about whether or not I'd like to take him, and at the time I actually was reluctant. I was like, man, I was really thinking about getting a puppy. I don't know, but then I decided to, and I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah.
When I think about how I almost didn't get him, I was like, man, that's crazy. Yeah.
So she chose the Hamburger name.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They went by. Well, actually, it was sort of a nickname. His name was originally Hamish.
Oh, really?
So Hamish, Hammy for short. And then I don't know how we started calling him Hamburger, but once I got him, that was his name.
I got to tell you real quick, because I know you said you were born in Stone Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
I went down when I was like 6. I went down to Peachtree City. We had family there, I guess, on a visit. But we also went over to Stone Mountain, which I guess is not too far away from there, and toured, right? Mm-hmm. And I was just, it's part of it's because you're 6 years old, but you're told it's one big rock. It's the biggest singular rock in the world or something, and you're like, I remember going back to school and telling all my friends, like, it was amazing. I was on the biggest rock. It was like a mountain, it was just this amazing thing. And I looked around to see if there was any other rock. And I don't think I saw any other rocks.
Yeah.
Just like these amazing things,
It's the only rock in the whole town.
I'm like, is there? Or maybe I did see like a couple pebbles. Like, I thought it wasn't supposed to have any pebbles or any other stones on it. Like, I thought it was just supposed to be one rock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
good stuff. Let's talk about. You mentioned. So I read through your blog, and you've already actually mentioned a few things that were on your blog, like lime. You talked about lime. Let's talk about large and small. That's kind of one and I think you just kind of started the blog this year.
I did.
Is that kind of a New Year's resolution type thing, or just, okay, I'm going to take my business to the next level this year?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We should also give a shout out to Brian Robinson.
Yes,
to
100%.
B-Rob was episode 90 for me. It's about 23 episodes ago. Mm-hmm. One Michael Jordan ago.
Yes, sir.
I love MJ.
Yeah.
And he's...
we're going to have to get into LeBron versus MJ later then.
Oh, I love LeBron too.
Okay, nice.
Dude, I remember, you're too young for this. I remember getting that issue of Sports Illustrated when it was like King James, like they anointed him. And
oh, yeah.
The memory's a little fuzzy because there might have been a couple, but I remember the very first time I got this magazine and I see this kid from where did he play? St. Vincent St. Mary's, right? And I'm like, huh. And I've always wanted to who roots for like that kid that's supposed to be the prodigy. Mm-hmm. And there's only a few of them that can ever really do it.
Yeah.
In like different sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I've rooted for him his whole career. Mm-hmm. He's amazing.
Yeah, delivered with flying colors. Crazy.
My son's 20. He's about to turn 25, and he's gonna have a baby, so we're gonna be grandparents soon. But he loves LeBron too. So nice. I've raised him well.
Nice.
But he'll send me these crazy stats. Like LeBron's obviously not only the only one that's like ever played in the NBA at the age of 40, but like his stats.
Crazy.
And so there was this thing the other day. It was kind of like a meme. Just these people who create stats, right? And they're like, LeBron's average points over 40, or what was it, like 27 points per game. In the fourth quarter, 8 points per game, which was still more than like all these other teams.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just one of those where you're like, man, like more and more, you see stats and it puts it in perspective, like just how good he is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Have you seen him play in person?
I have not. I really want to.
Yeah.
I really want to see him play before he retires.
We need to go up to Memphis or something and try to catch that.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Or I guess you go over to the Hawks if he plays there, right? But Memphis is in the West, so they might play them more. I don't know
I think they do. I think they do.
You only get one shot at him if he comes to Atlanta once a year, right?
Yeah.
But let's talk about that first. Let's talk because these are kind of fresh on your mind on these blog posts. But
do you still want to shout out B Rob?
Oh yeah.
I know. Tangented you.
Yes, B Rob.
Yeah.
So let's shout out him and talk to him a little bit. What does he? Well, obviously he's a business coach, a life coach, kind of a success coach. Is that how you would define your relationship with him?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's been my success coach for about a year now.
How'd you find him?
So actually through it was this website called New Me, but last year when I turned 29, I always say that I had my midlife crisis a little early. So when I saw that I was turning 29, I really did sort of take stock of my life and sort of ask myself what I had done, where I was going, and if I was pleased with my trajectory, if I continued living my life the way that I was.
Yeah.
When I'm 35, when I'm 40, will I be able to look the way that I'm living right now? Will I be able to look back and say, I am pleased with how my life is going?
Yeah.
And the answer was no. So with that being said, I really just had to put myself into position and sort of just get out there and do the things that I said that I wanted to do. And part of that for me was creating, I call it an accountability team. People that sort of know my goals, know the things that I want to get done, and can hold me accountable to those goals. And just getting around like-minded individuals, just driven men that are just getting after it,
Yeah.
So I sort of walked out. I went on Google, looked up life coaches. I interviewed 4 of them. Brian was the one that I went with, just because we immediately had a chemistry. I liked how he spoke. I could see the techniques that he was using when it comes to communication and asking open questions and and the power of silence and all those things.
Yeah.
And best of all, he was local. A lot of those guys, they sort of operate through sort of online web services.
Yeah.
And something that's really important to me personally is I really like being in the room with somebody. I really like just feeling that energy, being able to actually look somebody in the eyes when I talk to them, So all of those things sort of led me to Brian, and it's been a great year.
Yeah.
And I definitely can say that working with him has definitely allowed me to sort of tap into my potential and sort of stay in that track of sort of success and dedication, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Were you frustrated at 29 because you were comparing yourself to others in your family or friends or celebrities or something, and or had you set prior goals and you were far short of them?
The latter. I've never really. I mean, I do compare myself to others, when it comes to to success. I mean, I definitely do think that there is sort of a hierarchy or a ranking system when it comes to success and the things that people accomplish. But personally, it was just sort of I just didn't feel like I was reaching my potential. When it came to how hard I was working, I felt like if it was from 0 to 100 of how much am I doing, how much am I really pulling out of myself when it comes to the things that I can accomplish, I felt like I was maybe at a 30. And I want to be at 100, obviously. So it really was, that's where my discontentment came from. It came from me feeling like I wasn't doing the best that I could. I wasn't working as hard as I could. and it got to a point to where I was just tired of it. It was keeping me up at night and making me sleep too much all at the same time, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So I was at this point where I was like, man, either do it or don't do it. Either say, these are the things that you say that you want, either go get them or just recognize that you really don't want them that bad, and then we can stop torturing ourselves. So
Yeah.
I said that I wanted them, and I feel like I'd like to say that I've been working towards those goals, you know?
Okay. And so B-Rob's helped pull that out.
Oh,
in
definitely.
a way.
Definitely.
Motivate you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely. So has that, like, I can tell, like, obviously in 2024, right? You've definitely the quality is there, right? And we haven't even gotten to everything in the episode yet, but like when it comes to your packaging and your attention to detail, right? We've already talked about the branding and the coloring and just the stuff that goes into that. I wonder how much then has he inspired you and kind of helped light that fire where now you can see, okay, he's launching into 2024. There's a cookbook that we'll talk about, right? Or recipes. And this is just all time, right? To put these things together. And maybe are you ahead of schedule? I think kind of what I'm getting at is, are you now ahead of schedule based on your relationship with him on the things that you want to see Sauce Daddy achieve? Or are you right on pace or, kind of...
I feel like I'm on pace, and that's the best part about sort of how I'm operating with Sauce Daddy right now. There's definitely a structure or a foundation to it, to where, okay, so we're doing farmers markets, we're doing online sales, things like that, to where it's structured, and these are the things that we need to consistently be doing. There's a schedule. Are we behind or ahead of schedule? So when it comes to that, we're definitely, I'd say we're on schedule. But beyond that, there's a creative aspect to it that really isn't really dependent upon time, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. Like something that I'm working on right now is that we're doing a product campaign with our followers on social media, to where we ask them, hey, what would you like our next product to be?
Yeah.
Would you like it to be merchandise? Would you like new flavors? I was thinking about making some Sauce Daddy taco kits. We were playing around with hot honey, things like that, to where it's sort of this iterative process between the brand and our fans, I guess is the word to use. Yeah. And there's not really a timetable on things like that. And that's the thing that I personally enjoy the most about the brand. And that's the thing that I enjoy putting the most time into, honestly, is sort of the design aspects of it, the marketing aspects of it, to where we can sort of connect with the community and sort of repay all the energy and the faith that they've given us and give it back to them. That's the thing that I love the most. Yeah. So there's not really sort of a time dependent variable to those aspects. But when it comes to the brass tack business aspects, I definitely would say that we're on schedule. We might even be ahead of schedule, honestly, when I pull back and sort of compare Sauce Daddy to other brands. I feel like, although I say I feel like, but Brian constantly has to remind me of this, but the things that we've managed to accomplish in the past 8 months, I feel like are pretty significant. So
yeah, let me use this picture to kind of set up the point here. So this is you're at a farmer's market, I think, right? Or a vendor thing. And,
yep, that's our first farmer's market, September 24th.
And some of that's even like, what am I going to wear? What's the weather going to be like? And how are you going to present yourself? There's that. And you got the logo, of course, and the peppers. But this leads into my comment or the thought on like the blog post, large versus small, right? This is the reality of a small hot sauce maker, barbecue sauce, when everybody is in the sauce business, right? And you're entering that, so it's hot sauce, and making sure that whatever you're producing, there's a consistent quality. You talk about in your blog post, of course, with large corporations, right? The thing that they really provide is that consistency, right? I can eat a McDonald's hamburger now. The first time I had a McDonald's hamburger was probably in 1979, to my recollection, and it tastes the same, right?
And if you had some of that burger left, you'd probably still eat it today.
It'd probably be still good, right?
Yep.
but here you are. This picture kind of says a lot, right? Hey, you got a normal 9 to 5 job. now you're hustling, right? So any successes you receive from this is through a lot of hard work, right? And that's all yours to reap and be proud of. But here, yeah, let's say this is your first one. I guess I'm glad I went with this. You've got the sauces out there. You've got some chips, I guess, for sampling. In kind of using the context and the backdrop of that small versus large, or just a small up and coming sauce maker. Let's talk about the grind, if you will, and the need for community, I guess, in order to get the awareness out there.
Mm-hmm. So that's definitely something that I had to learn. So when I started the business in 2020, first thing I did was I made a website, and I just sort of sat on it. I was like, I've got a website.
Come to me.
Come on, and that is not how it works.
And were you selling like a single bottle of the sauce there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was. So that's definitely something that I really did learn, and that's another reason why I started working with Brian, was just sort of the importance of connecting with your local community when it comes to sort of building a brand. Mm-hmm. So the farmers market definitely was the turning point of the business when it comes to sort of getting our name out there, brand recognition, all of those things, and even more importantly, just it's really is just a bastion of a lot of good insights when it comes to, you can get the feedback that you get is immediate, and it is in huge quantities that you really could not get through the internet without paying huge sums of money, So when that sort of led us down this whole road to where now we have 3 different heat levels, because we originally just had one hot sauce, and people enjoyed it, but I kept getting this feedback. We love the flavor, but it's too spicy. We love the flavor, but it's too spicy. So that led us to making a milder version. They said it was still too spicy, so we made a milder version, and that's how we have the mild, the medium, and the hot now. So
is it also the hot, hotter, and too hot?
Yep. Okay. That's it. Mm-hmm.
In other words,
yep.
Got it.
So yeah.
So your hot's really your mild, your hotter's your medium, and your too hot's your hot.
Yes.
In a way. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that.
Got it.
So just getting that immediate feedback from the community was just invaluable. It allowed us to split test. It allowed us to just immediately see what was working and what was not working. And it also sort of put us into the community to where we're growing with them, and just the fact that we're local, it's something that at least this is something that I strive to do as the owner of the brand. I'd like to make a brand that people are proud to be a part of, that are proud to represent, something that's a little bit of a hidden gem for them, to where when you buy in early, when you as you see us grow, you get to take pride in that as well, because the community is literally they're feeding their energy into us and allowing us to grow, which is why I try to sort of give that energy back to them. I feel like that's a point of pride of mine, and I not past the point of pride. I think it's something that you just have to do as a founder of a company, to where when people put their trust and their dollars into you, you really need to give that energy back to them.
Yeah. And
the way that you give that energy back to them, especially as a CPG brand where we actually make products, is the quality of the products, the quality of the system, the quality of their experience when you come to the booth, when you talk to me, when you talk to anyone that's associated to the brand, just reflecting all of that goodwill back to them and letting them know that this is something that we're taking seriously, and not only that, like, this is something that we're going to the moon with, and we're going to take you with us.
Yeah. Let me ask this question and use barbecue sauce as just a backdrop, because depending on where you're from, Carolina is known for like the vinegar based, right? And then other parts of and I don't like that as much as I do maybe like what they use out in St. Louis or something, but people have their preferences, right? Or they're encamped firmly in their propensities or their what they like in barbecue sauce. Mm-hmm. So for hot sauce, what is the feedback or the whether it's critical commentary or just feedback to you I'm not as much of a connoisseur to hot sauce to know like what I like. The only thing I might notice is if it's maybe like watery versus like creamy. Mm-hmm. But even then, I feel like most of the time with hot sauces, the consistency is very similar, and it's just a matter of how much I can. What's the flavor like? If it's too spicy, that's one thing. But if it's really good flavor and spicy, I might be able to tolerate it. Mm-hmm. But what do people want when it and using kind of barbecue sauce just is that a regional thing, and has hot sauce become surprisingly regional for you with preferences? And they say, I'm sorry, man, it doesn't have enough of this, and you're like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or does it just come down to heat and taste?
Yeah. So funny enough, so I don't think I've ever actually encountered someone who's tried our hot sauce and not liked it. I say that humbly, like really, really. We've done we've done over 50 events now. I can't countless people, at least 10, 15,000 people have definitely tried the hot sauce in front of my face, and none of them have, unless they were being incredibly polite, which they were. I appreciate it, but something that we often hear when it comes to feedback is it's got heat, but it's got a lot of flavor too. People always say that, and I think it's really just because a lot of the times when it comes to hot sauce, it seems like the priority is just making something as hot as possible, but doesn't really taste good on anything, you know? So
yeah,
that's something that we really did try to prioritize, is that we wanted something that was flavorful, that had heat accompanying it. That wasn't making something that was really hot, that was just some sort of weird torture test, really wasn't at the top of our list when it came to, I'm doing hour again, the top of my list when I made the recipe. But funny enough, I do actually have some statistics on this when it comes to people's sort of acceptance to new hot sauce brands. And I feel like it probably sort of extends to other sauces as well. But 81% of the people in America use hot sauce on their food at least once a day.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then of those 81%, I want to say 63 of them are accepting of and actually actively looking for new brands to try. So it's not necessarily like everyone has their go-to sauce that they'll use on whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not something to where like, okay, I'm a Tabasco guy. That is the only thing I'm ever going to eat on food for the rest of my life. You know, it's not anything like that. People are always looking for their new favorite hot sauce, their new whatever to try. So that was something that I really did look into, and that's something that I've seen personally. Just there's anyone that likes hot sauce that I've run into, there's never been like I only eat Tabasco. They're always like, oh wow, hot sauce, I love hot sauce. What's the flavor? What's this? What's that? Is it vinegar based? Is it tomato based? Whatever the case may be. So people are always usually pretty open to trying new brands.
Huh. I wonder what the psychology is of that. As you were talking, I was thinking of what are those foods that, like a hamburger, for example, you're going to maybe always go with ketchup. Sometimes people do ketchup and mustard. Other people even do mayonnaise, ketchup, and mustard. Mm-hmm. But then you're looking for maybe variety in the burger itself and the construction of it. But you're not going to necessarily deviate from the sauces. Now, you know, some of the restaurants have gotten really creative and they put a barbecue sauce on there and a sunny side up egg or something like that. But it almost sounds like what you're saying is the chicken. Let's say you're using like chicken wings or something. You're like, okay, maybe there people really aren't thinking that needs to change or that's not going to change much. And yet, let me experiment then with the sauce. Mm-hmm. And keep experimenting with the sauce as if it's like this never-ending quest that will never end. And they may never even be happy.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is different than the food changing and the sauce not changing. Does that make sense?
I think so. Can you try that one more time? Or
so,
elaborate?
Yeah, like what are those things where you will never deviate from the sauce? Mm-hmm. Like some people will order a cheeseburger and they're only going to put ketchup on it. Mm-hmm. But you're going to go to different restaurants and try different cheeseburgers.
Okay, yeah.
You know? But then with like hot sauce might be something where you're constantly changing the brand of the hot sauce, but you know, like you're still eating eggs or you're still eating chicken or something. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You're not really changing what you eat. You're just like, let me try this sauce, or that sauce, or that sauce, right?
Yes.
On the same thing day. Because if it's every day, 81%, then they're probably having eggs every morning.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. I definitely do. Yeah, and that's part of why I sort of made the sauce in the first place. Cause I was in that same spot. I was eating chicken breast every day ad nauseum.
Yeah.
So I just needed something to sort of switch it up, and I think that's when you talk to a lot of hot sauce enthusiasts, they always talk about how they've got a whole closet or a cabinet or like a fridge door full of hot sauce, and I think it's sort of that same thing. It's just if I'm eating the same eggs every day, I'd like to put at least a different hat on it, I'd at least like to change the clothes on my food.
Yeah.
So I think hot sauce or just sauce in general sort of scratches that itch, just a flavor enhancer. It changes the experience, and I think that's what really people are trying to do when it comes to incorporating sort of sauces or additional things onto their food. They're trying to just sort of tap into or change whatever that experience that they personally have with food is.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question about these bottles. I just noticed something. You have and the hot sauce is kind of an orange, and then you go to the red with hotter, and then it kind of goes to a white or gray with too hot.
It's a silver.
It's silver. Is that is silver you equate that to things that are extremely hot? I'm in my mind I was kind of thinking like maybe silver would go on the mild side.
Yeah.
Like, can you talk me through, like, because obviously that's a conscious choice, right? You're like, you have to somewhat change the packaging to match the product. Can you talk me through that?
Yeah. So actually there's a funny story behind that. So the way that we got to the silver was, so when I originally had the concept for what the labels were going to look like, I wanted to have an orange for the mild, a red for the medium, and then I wanted the hot to be black. I actually had this concept for a black on black label, and that was going to be our too hot version. There wasn't necessarily any, what's the word, research behind that. I just thought it looked cool.
Yeah.
But so that was our idea. We took it to our label printer, and we got there. They said, hey, we tried to run the black on black. Take a look at it. It really doesn't, it just didn't look good. I thought that it would have sort of this reflective quality to where you'd be able to sort of see the black on black still, but it just turned out to be a wash. It was just a black label.
Yeah.
So they said, hey, we ran a couple without the black ink, because they all have a silver foil on them. That's how they have that reflective quality. So they said, so we just didn't run any ink for your logo print. And that's how we got the silver. So that's actually just the back of the page, that silver foil sort of shining through.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, I mean, it looks pretty cool. And we were literally there on production day. So I was sort of on a time crunch because we had our first farmers market, and I want to say a week.
Really?
I want to say it was a week. So if I was to sort of take it all the way back to the drawing board, it would have been an additional 2-3 weeks of us sort of playing around with it. So
makes sense.
I was like, I think that progression still looks good. So we're just gonna hit the ground running and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And people have taken to it, thankfully.
And now talk to me. I just had this guy Tony Maggart on, who's a chef. He actually went to the culinary, not CIA, not the Culinary Institute, a different one in New York. This is a problem when you do too many podcasts. Like sometimes I lose details.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but it was in New York, world-renowned culinary school. And I was asking him about the process of, he's like doing like, he wants to do some corn dogs and like have this food truck and all this kind of stuff. But I was asking him about like the process by which they come in and create the label, like the nutrition label, right? That obviously you have to, by law, have. What kind of, like, how much of that was, I'm assuming that was a learning process.
Oh, yeah.
You'd never done anything like that, but can you just give a little bit of behind the scenes of what that looks like, right? You have this great idea. Now it goes from now it gets big time where you want to actually sell this thing? Then I need to contact whom in order to test, evaluate, and approve this is not going to, hurt someone, right? And it's FDA approved. Can you talk through that?
Yeah. So When I was first going through that process, that was definitely the longest and the hardest parts. The part of it, just diving through Google, diving through food blogs and forums, just trying to piece together information about what it takes in order to sell hot sauce commercially. But after a lot of late nights, just doing exactly what I just described, just sort of foraging around for information on Google, that sort of led me towards having to sort of go through that process of making a legitimate recipe. So one of the first things that you have to do is you have to submit your recipe to someone called a process authority. So there's colleges usually have some sort of food science department.
Yeah.
And there they have people called process authorities, which are people that take your recipe, review it, and see if it fits FDA guidelines. So that's what I had to do for our recipes. And even before that, you have to go to something called Better Processing School, I think it is what it's called, which essentially just sort of leads you down that road of, okay, so this is how you cook something, this is how you bottle something, so that, you know, botulism and all those awful baddie names don't happen. So luckily that was just a course that I could do online. And then after that, I did my draft of a recipe, sent it to a process authority. I think I sent it to UGA. That's the school that I went with. Mm-hmm. And then after that, if everything looks good, they approve your recipe, and then essentially you're ready to go. There's more steps than that, but after that you're pretty much set.
So even if it's a school in Georgia, you can sell it anywhere in the U.S.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go through like a federal route.
No. They all you have to do. They have a website where like, hey, type in your zip code and find the closest process authorities to you. You know. So I just did that. There's a couple in, I want to say Nashville maybe, but UGA. My sister goes UGA, so I was like, oh, I know UGA. You know.
So do they build the nutrition facts and stuff from the spec sheet you gave them, or did they actually put like was it like a spectrometer?
So that's actually a whole other process. Okay. So what I just detailed was what you needed to do in order to get your recipe and your process approved by the FDA.
Okay.
In order to create an actual nutritional facts label, you also do that through a process authority or a food science department.
Yeah.
But for that, you send them your recipe, you send them all of the ingredients that you use. If any of your ingredients are in a bottle or anything that has its own nutritional facts label, you have to send that to them, and then they collate all those things and actually create a nutritional facts label for you. So that was something that I luckily got to outsource.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't too involved?
No, not too involved. Not too involved.
Just money and time.
Money and time. Money and
Usually
time.
what it comes down to, right? Yep. Well, you know, I just had this thought. One, I commend you. If I haven't said, I could just commend you, right? Like, I just think it's so different. Like, I've been in the services business my whole life, right? Contracting, support the government, run some projects, whatever, stuff that, the money's kind of already there, millions and millions of dollars of budgets, you just do stuff, right? And it's good for national security, whatever. But I've always had this appreciation for people who actually create products, like a legitimate product that the consumer buys, right? And then even more, when it actually takes off. And wow, what really made that take off, right? So awesome job. And we haven't even finished talking. There's more we're going to talk about how you're building that.
Thank you.
But I just think that this is fascinating, right? And that's a different level of entrepreneurship, and I guess that's kind of what the Shark Tank type stuff. And you might probably watch that religiously. I don't know.
I do not like Shark Tank very much. Well, it's not that I don't like it. It's just whenever I see clips of it, it seems like they always take horrible deals. I'll look at a clip of a Shark Tank deal, and everyone in the comments is just like, "Oh yeah, great job, you're set up for life." And all I can see is like, "Oh man, Mark Cuban just took you for a ride, my man." So I don't think I'd ever go on that show. I really don't.
Yeah, So the thought I'm having is, it's one thing, you might have some entrepreneurs, and maybe they're serial entrepreneurs, right? So let's say this is your first delving in your first foray into something like this.
Yes.
Maybe we fast forward 30 years from now and you've done a lot of things, but this is catching Dyllan Russell on his first go, right? And you're 4 years into this, and this is kind of where you're at, and it's really taking shape, and now it's a matter of like, how do you make this thing take off, right, and meet your goals and expectations. So it's one thing to go and say, what's the market missing? And in your case, there doesn't seem to be enough lime and basil based hot sauce. It's another to not worry at all about what's on the shelves and just go with what you like. It's almost like a musical artist. I always think about, like, is there ever overlap in lyrics or song titles? And they're just a musician. They write their music and they produce it, and they probably don't have they don't care nor to have the time to find out, is this too similar to something else? It's their music. And I'm assuming for you, it's just, oh, you did this thing for your friends. You enjoy it. You're turning this into a business, and there was never this thought of, I wonder if lime and basil is already there's the market's cornered by some other product.
Yeah.
Even obviously it's going to be different, and I just kind of find that amazing. Where I guess that lends itself to you, and you've kind of talked about how maybe you stepped into this blindly, finding out later that people do kind of switch out their hot sauces. They don't necessarily have a favorite, but is that pretty accurate, you think, is what I was describing there, where you just gone with it and you're not really worried about what else might be out there? This is just, you're trying to get your piece of the pie.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple different things when it comes to the question that you asked. So I guess I'll start there. So personally, something that I've always sort of felt confident in, is that if I like something, there's probably a million people that also like it.
Yeah.
That's something that I always think about. I think that while I am unique, I also don't consider myself special. And what I mean by that is that I don't think anything that I've thought in my brain, there's probably a million people that have also thought it.
Sure.
So when it comes to the things that I enjoy, I feel like that's an extension of that. So really, if I like something, there's another person that's going to like what I like. So when I make a hot sauce that I enjoy, there's going to be another person that enjoys that hot sauce.
Right.
So really, all it comes down to is finding those people. And when I think about that, that's what really sort of pushed me and sort of has given me this continuous drive for the business, is that I've always had a confidence in, okay, I like this. I know 4 people like it, although they are my friends, and your friends will tell you anything. But that was something that gave me a lot of confidence. Once I had that first stranger tell me that they really enjoyed the sauce, I was like, oh, it's a wrap, because now all I have to do is locate 1,000 more people, 1,000 more of you. You know what I mean?
And you weren't at all. I think we talked about this. I mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, but you weren't worried at all of like, okay, I'm from Guyana heritage, spent a lot of time in Atlanta. Now I'm in Huntsville. Even I hear what you're saying, but was there any concern, like, I just hope that there's enough of people like me, and this isn't going to be based, you had to have been in Atlanta to kind of understand my flavor preferences and profile.
Yeah, no.
Or if you were doing it in like North Dakota.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I hear what you're saying. I really didn't have any of those trepidations, honestly, especially when I thought about the flavor profile, like lime. It doesn't really matter where you are on the face of the earth. You probably like lime.
Sure.
And then something else that I sort of pulled from is that I've read this book called Everyone Has a Recipe by Tim Forrest. And what he talks about, the inspiration behind the name is that he actually was a consultant for the brand owner of Famous Amos cookies.
Cookies, yeah.
And he was talking about how he was just walking down the facility, like sort of the facility walkway with him, and he just told him his recipe. Like he didn't keep his
like proprietary.
proprietary close to the vest. He just let it all be known. And the reason why he didn't care was because there's more to a brand than the recipe, there's more than just we sell cookies, but it's not just the cookies that's why people come to us. It's everything else surrounding it, you know. Everyone has a recipe. So it's really what you do after that sort of separates you. In basketball, in the league, once you get to the NBA, everyone's exceptional.
Yeah.
Everyone has a base level of handle, of shooting ability, of whatever the metrics of being a good basketball player might be in order to get to the NBA. Once you get to that even playing field, how do you separate yourself, you know? So when I think about that, I don't think that concept is something that applies to only athletics. I think it applies to business. I think it applies to branding. I think it applies to marketing. And I think that's some of the things that I really try to attenuate to when it comes to building the business. Just that the recipe, it has to be there. It has to be a quality product. But once you have that, you need to start focusing on other things. Just having a recipe, the same way that having a website doesn't make people go to it.
Yeah.
Just having a great recipe or a great product does not make people buy it. So
Yeah. Let's do this before I ask that question. Let's go back and just kind of talk about some of these partnerships and explain to me Brooks and Collier. So this is kind of now, let me set this up first by saying, you know, you start out and you want to sell bottles of hot sauce. You go to farmer's market, people come up and they take it. And then in conjunction with that is what restaurants in the area or supermarkets, right, can carry my product. And then there may even just be some strategic partnerships. And then underlying all that, of course, is going back to Hamburger, giving back, right? Some amount of the proceeds going to the Huntsville Humane Society, right? So I've got a few of these here, but I wanted just to, you know, highlight some of these. But like Brooks and Collier, is that a partnership or is that somewhere where they're carrying your product?
yes, they're carrying my product.
Okay. And that what kind of store is Brooks and Collier?
So it's actually a really cool store. There's sort of a mix between interior and exterior design.
Okay.
So when you go in there, it really just looks like an oasis. There's all this really cool furniture in there. They have stuff on the walls, but they also have a grilling section, which is obviously where we fit in. So they have like, have you seen the big eggs? What are they called?
Yeah,
The big
yeah.
green eggs, all those things. So, and they've been in Huntsville for, I want to say, it's something crazy, like 75 years or something like that. So they really do have a storied history. So when they just said that they wanted to have us in there, I was really stoked. So,
And how did they come across your product?
to be honest, I'm not quite sure. So I've been running around. I've been giving samples to sort of, I've been going everywhere.
Yeah.
Any small local retailer, I was just going there, introducing myself, giving them samples, things like that. And I think by the time that I talked to Brooks and Collier, I really did have some brand awareness when it came to us being at farmers markets, and I think people just sort of knew our name a little bit. And then luckily enough, I had a friend of mine who was running some samples for me, and while she was there, one of the managers of Brooks and Collier was like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing here?" And she was dropping off samples for me. So I was like, "Oh yeah, we love to have him in there, give him our number." So
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was pretty organic the way that it happened, which
So-
is I like that.
So you're saying interior, exterior, so they're into if I want to build a backyard kitchen
Yep.
and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the products that go along with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Let's go back to this. I'm trying to think what I have. Let's talk about so this is kind of jumping ahead, but hey, it's in order here. Obviously, Atlanta's your hometown, if you will, right? Do you have to then depart a little bit from the community Huntsville-based thing to get appeal there, or it's just becomes hot sauce to them? How do you in any way change your approach to sell hot sauce in Atlanta or pick a city, Nashville, if you wanted to go up there?
I really don't change my approach based off the region. I really do. When I think about my branding, and that's another part of what's so great about the minimalistic approach that I've gone for. It really doesn't matter what region
Yeah.
I go to. it's still a clean, minimalistic brand that anyone can look at and say, oh, that looks pretty cool, you know. And when I think about the brand, when it comes to, I guess this isn't necessarily marketing, but when I set up a booth in a different city, you know, something that I've been wanting to do, especially as I expand out to having different teams running for me and things like that, is that I wanted something that sort of operated like McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is I wanted something to where when you set up shop, it looks the same every time, and it lowers the difficulty of interacting with it and understanding it to zero, you know. You can walk into a McDonald's here in China, in India, in Timbuktu, and you're going to know how it operates.
Yeah.
Even if you've never seen the brand before. Just because it's appealing, it's easy, you look up, you see the food, you see the numbers, okay, this is what you do, you know?
Yeah.
So that was something that I really wanted to emulate when it came to Sauce Daddy. And not only that, when you have that uniformity, it means that no matter where you go, you can see that flag, you can see that booth set up, and you're like, oh man, that's Sauce Daddy, you know. So I wanted something to where it really didn't matter what region you were in, we would have something that would be appealing and accessible to you, if that makes any sense.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually kind of did the same thing with my logo. Part of that was not to in any way, you know, we all have dreams, right? Mm-hmm. And the reality is you're never going to make a living at this unless you can really increase and amplify your number of your followers and whatever. So it's either hyper local, and which is still difficult to get enough interest, right? So there's a lot of podcasts out there and a lot of competition. Then the only way you can maybe survive is if you have that national, global audience, right? Whatever. But so I had, at least I've kind of gone to that sort of other logo. So the Our Town is more of a figurative thing, but then hopefully people kind of get that. There's no indicator now that it's in any state. What town's he talking about? Well, it's really more of a figurative state of mind, right? We all plant pride, and we're loyal to our town, no matter where you're from, right? And if I say something bad about Stone Mountain, you're gonna get offended. You know, you should. And you could be from the worst, ugliest place on this planet, and there's persons from there's gonna have pride in it.
100%.
Right? Mm-hmm. And you're gonna be like, wow, you're from a crap hole, man. Mm-hmm. But it's your crap hole.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what I've learned a lot. What's interesting about us as people, right? Mm-hmm. We're kind of tribal. When you put on your hat to support this, and then as soon as you're supporting that, but there might be some people then are part of another thing, and now you're enemies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because now, it's us versus them.
Yep.
And then you're back to us when,
by pure circumstance.
Yeah.
But that's something that a book that really sort of brought that into perspective for me, just when it comes to being inundated in a very competitive market, was Blue Ocean.
Blue Ocean.
Blue Ocean Strategy. It's a fantastic book. I can't remember who wrote it, but they talk about how to separate yourself in highly competitive, inundated markets, to where there's so many brands, there's so many people, there's so many, let's say, podcasts, that they turn from brands into commodities.
Yeah.
To where, like, let's say you're at the grocery store and you want to buy toilet paper. You have 20 different toilet paper brands in front of you. You don't care which, you just look for the cheapest price, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's so many options that you're just looking, you go to the least common denominator. So they talk about the difference between red oceans and blue oceans. Red oceans, they're called red oceans because they're red with blood, the blood from the competition of everyone that you're fighting with, to blue oceans, which are empty, non-competitive space, and how to separate yourself from the red ocean to the blue ocean, essentially by creating your own set of rules, to where you're not competing within this system that's been built through years of competition and structuring and, just the years and time going by, to where you're sort of creating your own rules and now people are trying to catch up with you just because you're looking at the game in a different way. So
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend reading it if you haven't. It's a really good book. It opened my eyes to a lot of different things.
That's awesome.
And was really pivotal to when I was sort of building the foundation of the business.
Let's show this one, Alabama Goods. Talk to me about your association with them.
Yeah, so I started working with them maybe 3 months ago now. Yeah, because it was a little after December, and that was a really big one for me, just because it sort of cemented myself as we're in a retailer. You know, this was our first chain retailer that we were in. They have 3 separate locations, so it was a really big thing for me, at least.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate them giving us an opportunity. And there's a lot of great local brands that are in there that I'm really glad that I can say that Sauce Daddy is standing next to. So they've been really great.
How's it selling over there?
It's been well. They've gotten a couple reorders from us. We actually did a Meet the Maker event with them maybe 2 weeks ago. And that was great. That was great to see. And, you know, I love all the girls down there. They're really cool. So I went down there, and I've gotten them all shirts and samples and hoodies and stuff just as a show of appreciation, you know. I really do appreciate them taking a chance on us, just because, I mean, the brand is 4 years old, but for all intents and purposes, it might as well be a year old, because that's how long we've actually been out stepping in the community, you know. So for them to take a chance on us, I really do appreciate it.
Yeah. We could have talked about this at the beginning, but I guess it was it's about a year ago-ish that I first met you. Maybe not a year ago, but it kind of feels like a year ago. And I don't remember how I met. I just think I may have just came up to you, or you came up to me.
You sat behind me.
I sat behind you,
Yeah.
At a generator event, like a VC type thing, right? So companies are up there trying to position themselves to attract funding from venture capital, right? To take those next steps. Is that something that you're taking a look at?
Venture capital?
Yeah. Are you ready
for
that?
At this moment, no, not really. Something that I've sort of realized when it comes to the brand, at least the way that I'm sort of approaching it, is that venture capital really isn't necessary when it comes to consumer packaged goods, just because you're sort of fueled by your own popularity, you know. A lot of mistakes that I've seen from, I won't say mistakes, but things that I would like to grow from when I think about what other brands have done, is that they think that the way to make money, or the way to build the brand, is that you want to be in 1,000 stores. I want to get into a Publix and just go across the universe immediately, you know. And that's not really how it works, just because, as we've already talked about, you're just a bottle on a shelf. People still have to pick it up and buy it. And that's where sales velocity comes in, and all those things that you have to deal with when it comes to being a brand on a store shelf.
Yeah.
So something that I've realized is that much better than being in 1,000 stores and selling maybe $1 or $10, whatever it might be, in one store, is to have one store, 3 stores locally, and really just take control of that area. And that's something that I've been trying to focus on. So when I think about whether or not I need venture capital right now, like, sure, it'd be great having $50,000, $100,000, whatever it may be, to put behind the brand, but honestly, it's just really not that necessary.
Yeah.
And something that I really like, honestly, is having no venture capital. This really is something that has been funded. I mean, initially it was bootstrapped by me, but now it's to this point to where it's really being funded by the community. You know, it's being funded by our fans, and I really do take pride in that. And I'd like to see what I can do with just those resources. And I do also think that not having an abundance, not having just a ridiculous amount of money behind the brand, really puts me in a different sort of creative mode to where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what can we do with this? Rather than going to a bank and getting $5,000-$10,000, how can I get that money by providing value to our fans and to our community? One of my favorite quotes is by this guy named Earl Nightingale. I listen to him all the time, and he says the extent of your success is essentially proportionate to the amount of value and service that you provide to your community.
Mm-hmm.
So when I think about that, I don't want to take shortcuts. I'm not saying that venture capitalism is a shortcut, but just personally for me, it really does put me into a really sort of creative, sort of entrepreneur headspace to where let's go make it happen. What can we do that provides value that people will engage with, that people will want to support, that they can become a part of, to where we are all sort of building this brand to where we want to take it to go.
Yeah. And I realize that's kind of that extreme leap. You leap over a lot of steps when it just comes from starting a company. You're going to do it for your own money. You kind of seek out family or friends, angel investing, and then that's kind of like kind of the last step.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reality is, obviously, if you go that route, then you're giving up a significant percentage of ownership, right? That's the whole goal, right? They're going to help you. They're going to help turn it into this ginormous thing and sell it, and you get a good portion, but they get the significant portion.
Mm-hmm.
But then it helps you with the next thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I was kind of thinking, like, how is it that I'm assuming a lot of products they all start out this way, kind of grassroots.
Yeah.
But at some point, that unfamiliar hot sauce, barbecue sauce, ice cream, like lands on the store shelves. You've never seen it before. And like sometimes you wonder, like, well, how did I know to buy it?
Yeah.
Did I see a commercial? Did I see an ad? Like, that takes a massive amount of marketing, whole different level, to somehow make it successful.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like, how do you sell hot sauce in North Dakota versus Southern California versus Vermont?
Yeah.
You
can
and you got to hire some smart people to like penetrate those markets differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's interesting. And you can see that with like how Kroger has 10 different names depending on what region of the country you're in.
Yeah.
Like it's Harris Teeter in Seattle. I don't know any of the other names, but depending on whatever region you're in, they have different names on how they operate. So that is something that's very interesting, just sort of that, and that's a whole different game that honestly is sort of at the extent of my knowledge when it comes to how do you the nuance of selling and marketing in different regions, and then beyond different regions, different countries.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why I think it's best to focus on local, because how are you going to learn to sell in somewhere you've never been when you can't even sell where you are right now?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I go through that with this show. Like, the reality is, and let's say you're still somewhat hamstrung by the fact that you still have a different job that you go
I wouldn't
to.
say hamstrung.
Well, it takes some of your time.
100%. Yes.
I guess it's a constraining factor because you have to set aside time and energy to that job.
I definitely agree with
that.
Yeah.
So then, therefore, you can't necessarily go all in on some of these things because you still have to give the proper time and attention to that. I'm in the same boat. And I got to really think through, like, okay, how am I going to get an episode in this week? When am I going to edit it? When am I going to push it out? Don't do too many too fast, whatever. Or I'm going to be out of town next week. I better do 2 this week, because I'm committed to, you will always get an episode when I tell you, like, on a Monday it's going out anyway. But let me jump to this because I like this picture. When was this taken? 1,500 bottles sold.
That was taken. Man, I think that was either December or late January.
Okay.
Yeah, we just finished our holiday market run, and and it was time to I was before this picture, before this order, I was buying bottles sort of piecemeal, 200 here, 300 here as we grew. Okay, 500, 600, but I'd never done sort of a wholesale bulk order. And it was kind of a mixture of two things. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the the need or the money, and essentially to do that first. So I was paying, I mean, by comparison, exorbitant prices for bottles to get them in smaller sets. So that was the first time that we were lucky enough to sort of dive into getting a whole pallet of bottles. We got 4,500 bottles all at once, and it was a really cool moment. And obviously, it was propelled by all of the community support that we had gotten in December.
Yeah.
And by that, and when I'd done the numbers, we had sold over 1,500 bottles in 3 months. Between September and the end of December, we had sold over 1,500 bottles in that 3-month period. So.
And then you still had 3,000 more to sell what you're going through now.
Yeah.
Okay. That's pretty cool. Did you have a party for yourself? Like, do you celebrate?
That was the party.
That was the party?
Honestly, my celebrations are short-lived. I feel joy in pretty short intervals. So it was a cool moment. I was like, okay, that's awesome. But almost immediately, I was like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the thing with me. Is like, I appreciate, and I'm so grateful for the success that we've had so far. But when I think about where I want to go, just selling 1,500 bottles, while it's a milestone, it's not something to where I'm going to throw a party for. When I think about where I'd like Sauce Daddy to be, I have the full intent of making this into a multi-million-dollar business.
Yeah.
So when I think about we sold 1,500 bottles, it's a great moment, but it's also, I know I have a lot more work to do.
Yeah.
And another thing is sort of I sort of have this weird feeling when it comes to the brand, to where I kind of feel like it's already there. I already feel like it's a multi-million-dollar business. I'm just not at that moment of time yet. Like, I don't know if you ever think about stuff like this, but like, how fourth dimensional beings, they interpret time differently.
Yeah.
Like if they look at time, they sort of look at it all at once.
Yeah.
I sort of feel like that with the business. It's already to that stage to where I want it to be. I'm just not at that moment in time yet. And now all I have to do is do the work and sort of walk through the steps of things that have already happened to get to that point. So when I see 1,500 bottles sold, it's awesome. I really do appreciate it, but I already know where I'm at, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. It's like you can see this big roadmap, and that's just at the very beginning.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, kind of talking about that in expansion. So how's this going with the We Are hiring? You were opening for 6 positions. I guess these are these full commission sales reps?
Yeah. So what we're doing right now is that we're expanding into having multiple farmers market teams that are going to be operating under the Sauce Daddy brand.
Okay.
So we were looking for ambassadors essentially to be in the booth, funnel. What's the word to use?
Triage?
Funnel people into the booth.
Okay.
Funnel attention into the booth.
Right.
Talk to them, answer common pain points, questions, handle sales, things like that. So we have been working towards that. I actually recently brought someone onto the team that I know him through our jiu-jitsu gym. His name's Blake. Great guy.
Yeah.
He's a young, hungry dude. Just really getting after it. He's got great energy. I trust him. He's a great sales guy, and I've known him for years through the gym. We've shed blood and tears together. So he really is a brother of mine. And the fact that he would jump on the ship like this, and the way that he's hit the ground running, and just the energy that he's put towards it, it really does mean a lot. And I can't thank him enough for it. But so he's been helping me sort of source other people that we're going to be bringing onto the team. So we're still going through that process right now. We definitely have had applications and people that have been interested. So we're just sort of going through that process of figuring out who we want to be on the team, who can represent the brand well, who can not even who can sell, but who's receptive and who's willing to learn,
Yeah.
That's what I sort of value more than anything, just sort of an openness and a willingness to learn and accept criticism.
Sure. Do you think at all in like parts of movies in your life and relate like what happens in a movie? Like, for example, I'm going to give you an example. Blake, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've told this before. I don't know how it's been a while, but do you seen Castaway with Tom Hanks?
Yeah,
you remember that? There's that scene where obviously he actually tries to kill himself at one point, right? It doesn't work, but he's just depressed and like he's never gonna get off the island. He's about to give up, and then one day, this thing washes up onto shore, and he hears it, and he goes out there, and it's like the side of a porta potty that ultimately becomes the sail for the boat that he's able to build. But he needed something like that. He needed kind of a miracle, like something that the wind could, push him off. And then all of a sudden things change because he got his sail.
Yep.
And kind of, I was thinking about maybe Blake for you, right? Like you have this vision and you have the confidence to know you're going to get there, but it's also like, what are those things that need to happen along the way? When are you going to get that sail in the form of a Blake that kind of helps you off that one just to help you make progress? And I was in a similar boat once where I was trying to do all this stuff. I had these great ideas for this live streaming stuff I was doing for like high school. And then this kid comes along, expresses interest, and we like just took off from there. Like he helped me get out of just a rut, because I needed help. But I needed to have the right guy. Yeah, I can't just turn this over to anybody to like do play-by-play for a game or color analysis for a game. Like and be able to work all the stuff. Like it's just like you, right? You've got to be able to make the hot sauce and sell it and represent the brand, right? And there's only so many people you can trust to do that. But I always think of Castaway. Yeah. And when you were telling me that, I'm like, there you go. He got his sale.
Yeah. Moments like that make you want to believe in God for real. Like, just and it always seems so timely too, Yeah. So I am truly grateful for him, and that's something that I've definitely noticed sort of along this journey is just as long as you do the work, man. As long as you do the work, something's going to come. Yeah. Something that is going to come that gets you where you need to be. Yeah. You just need to be out there doing your personal best, and something is going to happen that sort of takes you where you want and need to go.
Yeah. Maybe you've had some somewhat random encounters or conversations with people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%.
But then what they say, you actually take that very seriously, and it's very impactful. And to them, it might have just been like what they tell everybody. Yep. But you needed to hear that. Yep. Mm-hmm. This poor guy just passed away, Tim Knox, but he was a real estate agent in like the last 5 years. They built this company from like nothing to, it's got like over 100 agents, and it's like this whole new business model called Revolve Realty. But I've interviewed him a few times, and I started realizing, wait a minute, everything this guy has done, he's like been successful. So I really should listen to him. And I started going to lunch with him. And like even back in last August, he was like, Troy, you need to start doing YouTube shorts. And I was like, really? He's like, you just do it. And he was right. And just kind of, that was something I wasn't paying attention to. And it just, my subscribership really took off, and just interest, And,
everything in social media is going towards that short form.
But it was just concept. Like, sometimes you just need people to, like, you've heard it before, but then there's certain people that like, and I think you'll have that effect on people like Blake, right? Like, man, if Dyllan tells me to do something, I'm going to do it. That's good advice. If he tells me to read that book, I'm going to do it.
Well, I hope he feels that way. I hope he feels that way at least. And he's done that same thing for me as well. Yeah. He's definitely got his own head on his shoulder. He's done things that I have no scope of doing either. So he's been in the Navy. He's climbed like radio towers and stuff. Yeah. So things that are very well past the extent of my grasp. So. Sure. That's another part of us working together that's really been great, is that I think we both bring things to the table and have things to teach each other.
Yeah. So. Let's talk about the cookbook.
Okay.
That's recently online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What was the thought in putting that together?
So I wanted something that incorporated the sauce into recipes. And mainly just because that's sort of the basis of the whole brand when it comes to how I created it. I created it through me being in the kitchen, me cooking for myself, me enjoying just cooking in general, So I wanted something that sort of reflected that and could also sort of bring some fun recipes, some fun ideas to the people that enjoy the sauce, you know. So there's a lot of recipes in there that I've made myself that I really enjoy, and I thought that it was something that other people enjoy as well. Yeah. Not to mention the fact that I just enjoyed making it. I'm always looking for. I've really used Sauce Daddy as an excuse to sort of explore my own creativity. So all the things that I enjoy doing, all the sort of weird ideas that I have, I sort of pull them into the brand and use it as an excuse to sort of bring life to those ideas. Yeah. So I just thought it'd be a great sort of cool creative thing to do. And I thought it'd be a cool way to create engagement as well. So we've been selling them on the website, but we've also been giving them away for joining our mailing list at our farmers market events as well. So I want to say we've probably given more than 200 of them away already. Yeah. Which is why I made it. I don't really want to sell it, honestly. I want to give them away, just give them to people, have them enjoy it.
I think this is a good. You made me think, but I'm gonna do a little show and tell here. So, if I'm coming up to your pop up tent at a farmer's market, right, and whether it's you or one of your agents, you know, you're gonna have. It's going to be one thing. I felt a little bit bad, right? I have a T-shirt for you. And Dyllan comes in and he blesses me with all these gifts, right?
Nah, man, yeah.
No, that's all good. But this is good, right? If I come up there, it's like, well, what do you got? Like, well, we got the sauce. Mm-hmm. And this is the hot sauce. So this is the mild. Yeah. Okay. And here's another mild, right?
Yes.
You're a good man because I don't know if you knew my profile, but like, I struggle with the too hot. There's that. And then I guess you're going to have some hoodies. And T-shirts for sale. Yeah. And then, of course, you have a cookbook. So that tells me, like, this is a little bit more than just... You're putting on a really good professional, put-together operation, right? Yes. And it doesn't come across as just fly-by-night.
Yes, yes.
Right? That sets you apart, right? And unfortunately, and sometimes you do have to have lots of offerings in order to entice that person to come over. Mm-hmm. Versus just, you know, maybe you have one thing, and that might just be a turnoff.
Well, actually, I feel like...
What do you think about that?
I feel like a lot of people do say that you need to have a lot of different offerings in order to attract people in. But honestly, I feel like the fact that we only have one flavor is something that works to our benefit. Okay. Just when it comes to...
Like tried and true and just...
It's a good product, and when you come here, you essentially you know what you're getting. So you've been on Netflix before, right? Yeah. So it's 11:30 or whatever. You're trying to watch something before bed, and you're just clicking through. You're clicking through the channels, the names, right? Yeah. You're going. You'll click through names for a good 20 minutes before you might just say, you know what, whatever. I'm just gonna go to bed.
Yeah.
You know?
Nothing here I want to watch.
There's this inundation of choice that sort of stops you from making one. Sometimes when you have so many things to choose from.
Right. Analysis paralysis.
Exactly that. So when I think about how we only have one main offering, I really do think that works to our benefit, because when you come to our booth, there's really only one choice to make. How hot do you like your hot sauce? Do you like the flavor? Okay. How hot do you like your hot sauce? All right, this is the one you want. You know, there's no real, I don't know what to do. Yeah. We have a great product. You know, you like it. If you want to get it, you get it, you know.
But if you had just the one flavor, that might be too little, right? So at least you're giving at least 3 levels.
There does need to be an option.
Right.
There does need to be a choice that you can make.
Right.
I think the question comes into how many choices you have to make.
Yeah.
You know?
Because I'm definitely, let me get your thoughts on this. I'm definitely kind of turned off with like the direction that, like, I want to pick on Oreo. Mm-hmm. And like maybe even like a ranch dressing where it's gotten a little out of hand. Like Oreo has 50 flavors? Yeah. And I mean, bless them if they figured out production wise how to, like, you know, retool your plant to make peppermint and pumpkin and chocolate and vanilla, and like it almost, I don't know if I like that, because sometimes I'll end up having a flavor and then you're like, I don't think that's really that much different. Yeah. Like, can't you just stick to like regular and double stuff? Mm-hmm. Like you had something there. Mm-hmm. And maybe, I don't know if it's ranch or like Hidden Valley, like they just have too many options. Yeah. And I think that can be a turnoff. Or how there's always that one brand where there's like the original flavor, which I guess got them going, but then they like I guess have quickly departed from it. And sometimes I guess it can work, but I usually like to try the original. Well, what started this whole thing, and does that prove to be the best? And I think sometimes maybe people make the mistake and move too quickly past what got them there.
I agree.
It's just core competence, right? It's just basic business.
I agree.
You know?
And when you talk about it from a business perspective, there's a couple other things there as well. Like if I have 10 different flavors, if I have 10 different products, now I need inventory for all 10 of those products as well, you know?
Yeah.
And let's say, and now not all 10 of those are going to be movers. If I have all 10 of them at the same time, maybe if it happens organically across the course of months, not months, probably years, sure, they could all have their own individual fan bases. But if I have 10 products, you're not going to buy all 10 products every time I see you. So now I'm holding on to inventory for whatever the losers might be. Let's say one of them is not great, and now I'm just holding on to them. The velocity of me moving my products is a lot slower rather than me having one product that I know everyone likes. Every time I come out here, I'm going to be moving these products. You know, there's no slow movers when you just have 3 products.
Yeah.
And then something else is that it's really, when I think about how many people I have sold to in Huntsville, or not even in Huntsville, just when I think about when it comes to selling a product, right? If you have a product that costs $10, if you sell that product 100,000 times, you've made $1 million, right? There's 250 million people in America. So if I sell that one product to 100,000 of those 250 million people, I'm not sure what the percentage number of that is, but it's very low. I just made $1 million in sales. I don't need 10 products in order to do that.
Right.
All I need is one very good product that I get in front of 100,000 people. So when I think about those things, that's really what sort of led me to sort of strengthening the core of the brand when it came to, we're just going to have this offering for now. Yeah. It's just that when I think about Huntsville, there is, I think, 400,000 people in Huntsville. Is that right? Something right. like that?
Yeah.
So I've sold to what, 1% of them? So if I can get a bottle of Sauce Daddy hot sauce on every family table in Huntsville, why do I need 10 products? You know?
Yeah.
So that's sort of how I've been looking at it.
Yeah, it makes sense. There's it goes again. I actually thought of the thing before, but it's too late. I'm not gonna go back to it.
Next time I'll shut up.
No, it's good, man. These are just things I think about.
Yeah.
As we go. Let me ask you this right now, though. Is there anything we haven't touched on that you want to touch on?
I don't think so. Yeah. I've been enjoying the conversation.
Yeah, good. I appreciate it because it's different. I really try hard to. Okay, I'll mention the comment I was going to mention before. Like, it's easier for me. And this goes back to the constraining factor on time. The fact is, I have a career. Sometimes I have to travel. It's higher probability that I'm gonna have guests for this program if I'm hyper local based on the community, North Alabama, because as it's proven, people a lot of times come to me, or I know I'm going to be in an event, I'm going to talk to people, and I could probably recruit 10 people to come on this show. Going to like a generator event, right? Because it's interesting stories and interesting products, and they're all different from one for another. Versus trying to take the time to like somehow cast this really wide net nationally. Well, I know I just don't have the time for that.
Yeah.
Right. To seek out every book author on whatever, or I know me, and I haven't come across like that niche thing. Like if it was just hot sauce, then I would have this easy way of like a very directed tactical approach to that search.
Yeah.
Versus what I'm doing here, which is good for North Alabama because I'm touching on a variety of things, but hopefully that appeals to someone who says, oh, you know what? I wish there were more podcasts about North Alabama. That's kind of what I'm going after.
Yeah.
I know I just don't have the ability, unless I had a staff, or whatever, to line up these national and then have a good show.
Yeah.
And I also want them in the seat. I don't want to do a virtual show.
Yeah, 100%.
So 100%. There's just for those reasons, I have decided I'm going to do in person. I'm going to focus on North Alabama and go, and then kind of like you were saying before, like, look, there's TV market, there's radio, but there's also maybe this you use this new medium of the internet and podcasts to be just as compelling and compete with TV and radio.
Oh, I think podcast is
Right.
is beating TV and
It
radio.
is, and then even something that, like, if I turn on the radio now, it's local. Or if I turn on the local news, it's local. Do you then have something where you turn on the local podcast to get more coverage of the people you may have heard on the radio or may have heard on TV? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm, and it could change, right? If it would be totally different if I was retired and this is all I did, I might go down a different route. But I'm like, okay, what's in the realm of possibility?
Yeah.
And I think this is kind of what we've been talking about too. Like, yeah, I think I have dreams, or not just a dream, but a vision of where this could go, and just keep, like you're saying, keep making good decisions, keep trying, keep working hard, keep making it a priority, see what happens.
Yep.
Right.
That's another Earl Nightingale quote that I love. He talks about the definition of success, and a lot of people define success by accomplishments and by what they've managed to do. Earl Nightingale, he defines success as the progressive work and ideation of a goal.
Yeah.
So as long as you're on the path, you're successful, So, and that's really how I've been trying to look at success personally. That's something that really did attenuate with me. Just if you're on the path, if you're working hard towards where you're trying to go, you are successful.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I see that when I see you and what you've been doing with the podcast. And honestly, this is something that we all know when we think about how people blow up. You see it in music all the time.
Yeah.
When you see some young up and comer in music, the first thing he does is get hot locally.
That's true.
And then once he has that local base, then usually through hook or crook or whatever it might be, he might have some big single, or he might do some small regional tour. But it's not something. Very, very rarely is it that you see someone who has some hit song that they put on SoundCloud and it just blows up across the globe overnight.
Right.
Usually they have some sort of local fan base that they did by doing some sort of local circuit, and then as they lock down home base, now they expand. Then they become regional. Then after that, as they continue to work, they have that breakthrough moment. It's like when you have like a block of ice. That's something that I read about in Atomic Habits, about how people they put in the work, they put in energy, but then they don't see any results, so they stop doing it. But when you look at a block of ice, right? You heat it up, you can let's say you have a giant block of ice, right? And you're raising the temperature in the room. It doesn't start melting immediately. You have to get to a certain level of energy that you put into that block of ice for it to start melting, And a lot of people stop feeding energy into their systems just because they are not seeing any external, any quantifiable sort of progress.
Tangible.
Exactly. But when really all you need to do is continue to focus and pour energy into the system. Instead of looking at the results that you're seeing out in the world, you need to be focused on making a more efficient system,
Yeah.
You should be getting your, what's the word? What's it called when you're happy about something?
Content?
Yeah.
Joy, or happy about something. Affirmation?
You should be getting, I guess your affirmations, that'll work. You should be getting your affirmations through the system and you being able to consistently make it better. And that's something that I've personally been trying to do when it comes to sort of juggling my engineering job and Sauce Daddy and training in the gym and reading and all those things. I still see so much opportunity to do it better,
Yeah.
So that's something that I've been trying to do personally, and I think that I've been seeing you do it as well. I mean,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I mean, you see that yourself when you talked about what this looked like when you first started,
Yeah.
And that's part of the fun, honestly.
Well, and there's a reason I have, like, I'll have Channel 31 come in here or other people that like in the business, and I'm actually going to be I'm talking to them, trying to figure out something because what I'd like to do is like last year, for example, Snoop Dogg came to Huntsville. In other markets, when I was in DC, if Snoop Dogg came to DC, he's going on all the bigger radio shows. And maybe even on the news, just to be a quick interview. It's part of like their PR to sell tickets or just otherwise. Hey, Snoop's in town, and he's just an example. I want to be that in a way, like to get hooked in, like on the podcast side. If someone's coming to the amphitheater, and they have a publicist or PR person or whatever, and they want to help sell out the show or just continue to help expand
local podcast pipeline.
Or just hey, maybe Huntsville is not as familiar with some singer, and it's just all a part of their marketing, right? Just a quick blast. Why can't I be that outlet to come onto a long form? You're going to do the news, you're going to do the radio, that's great, but then with Channel 31 it would be maybe they do a story, then they come to but then I do my show at their studio, or whoever it is comes to my studio, my house, which is kind of weird, right? But then do the extended version. Because they always talk about that, like, oh, if you want more information on this guest that we just talked to you for 2 minutes, go to our Facebook page. Like, no, just click over to Our Town Podcast, and now you get to see the full thing.
And that's the power of podcast: authenticity, long form authenticity.
I appreciate it, man. Look at another. I was going to mention something. Is there anything that scares you, that worries you? You see, I know you have some confidence, but do you ever have some doubts and demons creep in? And why are you doing this, man? Why are you doing this, Dyllan?
Do you mean personally? Do you mean about regarding the brand? Or?
Yeah, like Sauce Daddy. Like, should I have done this? Do you have some naysayers in your life? And I guess you removed the poison, but
yeah, I don't really have anyone in my life currently that, at least I hope, isn't rooting for me. I mean, anyone
against you?
Yeah, excuse me, rooting against me. Thank you. There's no one rooting for me. They're all wishing evil on Sauce Daddy. But yeah, I mean, anyone that I really thought didn't have my best interest in heart, I haven't talked to in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that they're looking still.
Hope they like hot sauce.
Yeah, I hope they like hot sauce too. I got a bottle for you. But no, I've been lucky enough to have a group of guys around me that I really do think have my best interest at heart, and to have a family that's been very supportive. So I've been very lucky about that. But when I think about fears of the business, when it comes to the business, I really don't, man. I feel like it's already happened. I really do.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of putting in the work. The only thing that I really think about, I've thought about this before. I was like, man, what if World War III happens before I can get Sauce Daddy off the ground? But hey, even then, I've literally thought about that. I was like, man, if war broke out and no one really gave a crap about buying hot sauce, what would I do? And I'd find a way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd get little hot sauce packets and army munition kits. They'd be putting it next to the hardtack. I don't know what it'd be, but I'd figure out a way. That's how I think about everything.
I wonder if, like, retroactively they'll just go back, like, let's say it's 2 or 3 years from now, say, actually World War III kind of started with this.
Yeah.
And we've already been living through it.
Yeah, probably.
With all the stuff going on in the world anyway.
Yeah.
Right? It just seems like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What was I going to ask you? I was just thinking about Baltimore for those poor people in that bridge.
My goodness.
Gosh, it was bad.
Yeah.
Let's talk about LeBron a little bit. So why do you love LeBron?
Man, I just think he's cool, man. I like his dedication. I like that he's been doing it for over 20 years and people still can't get rid of him.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I just think he's cool. I can't even really explain why I'm a LeBron fan. I always have been. I've always been rooting for him to win. I want him to beat out MJ. And I feel like honestly he has. I feel like people, when I think about the game, I think that 100 years from now, when no one who's seen either of them play exists, I think that they'll look at history and be like, yeah, he was the best.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm only definitely the most complete player.
Yeah.
Like he could play all the positions. I love the fact that, even when he was in high school, right? Like everywhere they went was like the ESPN game of the week and or massive fans, like just in the limelight. Handles it well from what we know. Never had any infidelity.
Like, oh my goodness.
Never any infidelity issues. Been married to his high school sweetheart.
Can you imagine MJ in the social media age?
Gosh.
Lord have mercy.
That guy's not. He's like, as much as I love Tiger as a golfer, he's not a good human being. Nor was his father. And MJ's not a good human being. Like when you kind of just look at what's important to like a family man or the gambling and just but he can do whatever he wants to do. But I think LeBron though, is a good dude. And he's there for his kids. Like every time I see a clip, he's at one of his, he's at every game he can go to, he's going to be there, right? And I think Kobe was the same way. But I just love the fact that this dude can play like every position.
Yeah.
And has the body. And the only knock, though, the only thing is like the MJ just was the killer.
Yeah.
Like he didn't lose.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And
I do think that there's definitely an argument there. There's
like
definitely
fourth quarter,
like an argument between the two.
It's like certain golfers. Like that's why Tiger was so good. Like Tiger closed the deal.
Yeah.
He until he just had issues and was injured. He never lost when he was supposed to win.
Yeah.
And LeBron sometimes will disappear in the fourth or miss the game-winning shot. Like Jordan, he didn't win championship every year, but like when they were in it, they won.
Yeah. The 6-0 is hard to beat.
Yeah.
But something that I do think that people really just blow off is the like the 40,000 points thing.
Yeah.
Completely blown off. People are like, "Oh yeah, of course he got 40,000 points. He's been great for 20 years." It's like, he's been great for 20 years.
He's been keeping his body in shape. It's like Tom Brady. Like they had to make a commitment to eat well, to have longevity in their career. LeBron's the same way. He hasn't been like super fat or super he takes care of himself.
Yeah.
There's just a lot to be said for that.
Yeah. But that's a common theme. People always sort of wave off hard work.
Yeah.
People just sort of.
He has 4 championships, right?
Yeah.
Nice. He's 2 more.
Although people say the last one was a bubble championship.
Oh, but that's tough too.
Yeah.
We all know what it was like to live in a bubble, and they're like, these guys are married, and they, I guess they don't even know they could go home, and you're like, it's got to suck to try and go out and play like games, and you're living in Orlando in a bubble.
Yeah. No, I don't discredit it. I think it's still a championship.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I hope he wins one before. I hope he wins another one before he retires. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that'd be awesome. If he wins 5, I really don't know how people are gonna say anything.
Well, Dyllan Russell, man, it's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for the merch. I'll send you some stuff when I get my new stuff printed.
Awesome. I can't wait, man.
What's your favorite color?
Burgundy.
Burgundy. Okay.
Like wine burgundy, yeah.
Oh, my old
or black.
Or black? Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I love wearing all black.
Any final shout outs or
I mean, not really. I guess Sauce Daddy 20 on all platforms if you guys want to check out the brand a little bit more. We have a lot of events that I can't talk about yet, but that I'm hoping to have prepared for the summer and moving forward. So something that we're really trying to do is sort of increase our community engagement. Something that I really want to say that Sauce Daddy can do is that it brings people out of their house in order to, it brings people outside to enjoy themselves and each other and sort of things like that. So that's kind of what I've been working on. So I'm really excited to share some of those things. So if you guys are interested in that, you should definitely stay tuned.
I know what I was gonna mention one thing to you. So yesterday I went to lunch or dinner at Jay Alexander's. My boss was in town. The AUSA Global big Army summit things going on down at the Von Braun, and he was here last year and loves Jay Alexander's over in Town Madison. So we went there for dinner, and the Nashville hot chicken sandwich. So I order it. And I hadn't really. I know that's it's a big thing, right? And this doesn't get to a point tied into hot sauce, but I always get worried though if I see something with hot sauce. I'm not how hot is this, right? But anyway, I asked and then my boss ordered the same thing. But I asked the server so how do you describe the taste or And she was like, well, if you've ever had Frank's hot sauce, it's like that. And I'm kind of thinking, man, I hope that happens for Sauce Daddy.
Yeah.
right? Where you get to that name, that recognition of Frank's hot sauce. Yep, we put that on anything, right? The marketing that they've done, where it's that household name, or if you're thinking hot sauce, they've just done such a magical job, right? Of like, think about Frank's, but I think I'm hoping locally in Nashville's not the Nashville hot chicken sandwich. Hey, it needs hot sauce, right?
Yeah.
And actually, Champy's is supporting you, right?
Yep.
I saw a testimonial from their owner, I guess.
Yeah, Eugene, great guy.
So are they using your stuff?
Yep.
Awesome.
We're in Champy's. If you ever get chicken and Champy's, you can grab a bottle of our hot sauce.
Now they use their own, and then that's just yours as a supplement. Or are they using yours in their stuff?
So our bottles are just in the store. They're not using it for cooking or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But maybe they will.
Maybe they will. Something that he told me when I first gave him, when he got his first case from us, was that he was having trouble because all of the servers and waitresses there were stealing bottles and taking them home. Well, they weren't stealing bottles. He was like, I can't keep them, man. Everyone keeps taking them home. So.
Oh wow, good for you.
So yeah, that was one of the. He's one of the first people that jumped on board the brand. Actually, when this is a good story. So when I first started working with Brian, one of the first people that he actually introduced me to was Eugene. So we went to Lux Brew. He introduced us. I told him that I made hot sauce. I actually brought a sample for him to try. And Eugene's a huge foodie. Obviously, he owns a restaurant. So this was the first legitimate food person that had ever tried my sauce before. So we grabbed some lunch. He put some sauce on the spoon, tried it. He's sitting there just pensive. And I'm playing it cool, but I'm waiting with bated breath, like I know it's great, but so for some reason, even though I have complete confidence in the products, every time I have someone try it in front of me, I'm still sort of just sitting there waiting,
Yeah.
And he just looks up, he's like, "This is fantastic." And I was like, "Okay, that's it." Literally all I needed to hear. I know what the next 5 years are gonna look like.
Good for you, man.
So yeah, he bought a case there, and that was the first case we ever sold was to Eugene.
Awesome.
So I definitely appreciate it for that.
That's a heck of a first customer.
Yeah.
He sells his own chicken.
Yeah.
And yet he sees the value in the sauce. So
yeah.
awesome.
And he's been so supportive this entire time. Anytime I have a question, Eugene's right there for me to ask him. So
that's awesome.
Definitely got a lot of love for him.
Well, all the best. I look forward to having you on in the future.
Thank you. I'd love to come back.
And have a great rest of the year.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Man. Yeah.